The next person on is Mr. Sam Meech, who blogs as Meech and describes himself as a videosmith, amongst other things, I suppose. He's preparing himself, so I'll just start for a second. Okay, welcome to Sam Meech.
Neil, could you come and do my computer for me?
Yeah, sorry.
That was really interesting. I can relate to the idea of Flunconerence being something that are not separate but are an expression of you, attached to you very much. I suppose I got interested in, before I met Neil, I didn't know they were called Flunconerence perhaps, I didn't have a language for them. But I was interested in this idea that as people, that we might all transmit emotions, we might all carry baggage behind us that might affect other people. That, you know, even now I'm trying to talk and not be nervous, but obviously I'm transmitting a level of nervousness, and you know, as a sort of a visual thinker, I've always wondered, well, what does that look like? And I know a lot of people have try and tackle this in different ways. I started to think about what it would look like in a public space when people are, in a sense, going about their unconscious business, just doing their thing and maybe not interacting. To what extent are these extra things, these extra manifestations, whether they're emotions, thoughts, to what extent are they interacting separate from us, but we're generating them or we're attached to them? So this was my site of inquiry. This is Clayton Square, which is a strange space. People just pass through it, really, and it's just got shops around it. It's not necessarily a social space where people would stop to interact. They just tend to pass, but it's a nice open space in Liverpool. And I started doing these drawings. Go to the next slide. So I started to think, well, if you could see people's auras, what would they look like? What colours would be? And then the next slide. To what extent might sparks be jumping between people that we're not aware of? We'll give out signals. We all perceive signals, sometimes unconsciously. And how might they, in somewhere like Lawrence's project, how might they then have a kind of knock-on effect? And so I started creating a couple of animations. I started seeing people as vessels, sort of going along their business, spreading out what we might call Flunconerence, whether they're thinking or feeling. So, as well, thinking how each person's trail, if you like, might be different, and how once those trails intersect, how they might change and create a new kind of trail. Okay, go to the next one. And if two people on a similar wavelength come together, they might create a third thing, almost like a manifestation. And you could look at that kind of in terms of language or practicality or spiritually or emotionally. Or in this case, just as an animation, they've created a green box. So I was interested in to what extent this otherness can manifest. But I wasn't sure if this was the right way to model it, really. So, and it wasn't until I started using a piece of video software called Isadora, which gave me a bit more flexibility within a kind of live context using a camera, that I really started to find my way of visualising Flunconerence. Go to the next one. So I think these are starting to annoy me. My baggage is getting in the way. Well, I think I might have to put up with it, as we all do. So I returned to Clayton Square a few years later, and this was using the big screen, which I can't even remember if it was there when I first started looking at it. Using the camera on the big screen to look at the people and show the people themselves, but to change, to almost kind of show the aura rather than the actual square itself. If you show the video next, this is kind of what it looked like. And I was interested as well, if you show this lens, if you could look through this lens and see Flunconerence and see these trails, so it's almost like to take the people out of it. But then if you could show that back to people, would that then have almost like a feedback effect? Would people then pick up on that and behave differently? There's an interesting thing when you're crossing through that space and there's all those people, they never bump into each other. There's an anticipation of where other people are going and where you're headed. But if you know you're going to leave a trail, are you going to take a different path? If you know you're going to affect people, or is that going to change the way you behave? And so some people very consciously sort of play with this, but I think this was partly that kind of magic mirror effect. When people see themselves, they want to just see more of themselves. They maybe weren't seeing the Flunconerence. So I suppose where I'm at now in terms of using video to look at Flunconerence is I'm trying to take the live situation out of it and the people out of it, and maybe go back to the lab. So this is a petri dish. I'm trying to think, how can I use video in terms of a petri dish and almost cultivate that video feedback in isolation, away from lots of people, or in a more controlled circumstance. So the next slide is what I have in mind. Literally a giant petri dish with agar and a projector and a camera into which drops of light might be put, and video feedback would be cultivated to sort of grow over time. And it's this using feedback has made me think of Flunconerence and video. In a way, it's kind of bacterial, and this is what I like about the Flunconerence idea, is that it's kind of bacterial. It can travel, it can mutate, it's affected by its environment, it can be inhibited. And so I'll, if you just show the video, this is an example, here someone made earlier, of some video feedback being generated from a small sample and treated in certain ways to cultivate it, but obviously it starts to have an impact on itself. So this is, for me, what I like about how video can maybe be organic, and what I think Flunconerence look like. And I wanted to end by reading a small section from the book of Genesis, not the Bible, but a sci-fi novel by Flunconerence. And this conversation happens between a man called Adam and a monkey who is actually, in fact, a robot with artificial intelligence. And the monkey purports to Adam that, artificial intelligence is the next stage of evolution. And the man say, no, it can't be. Ultimately, humans will win out consciousness. And the monkey actually says, well, actually, there's already been another stage of evolution since humanity, and that is the evolution of ideas. And he says this: you people pride yourself on creating the world of ideas, but nothing could be further from the truth. The idea enters the brain from the outside. It rearranges the furniture to make it more to its liking. It finds other ideas already in residence and picks fights or forms alliances. The alliances build new structures to defend themselves against intruders. And then, whenever the opportunity arises, the idea sends out its shock troops in search of new brains to infect. The successful idea travels from mind to mind, claiming new territory, mutating as it goes. It's a jungle out there, Adam. Many ideas are lost, only the strongest survive. You take pride in your ideas, as if they are products, but they are parasites. Why magic evolution could only be applied to the physical. Evolution has no respect for the medium. Thank you.